everybody. I'm Sasha Ellsworth from Utopia on YouTube, and I'm moderating the Lemons Google Hangout session of our first ever International Women's Day edition of the Read for Pixels campaign. Through Read for Pixels, the Pixel Project is collaborating with 13 award-winning best-selling authors to raise awareness about violence against women and raise funds towards the Celebrity Male Role Model Pixel Reveal campaign, which aims to raise $1 million to be shared between the USA's National Coalition Against Domestic Violence and the Pixel Project to keep their efforts to end violence against women alive and kicking. We'll be telling you more about the Read for Pixels fundraiser, which has lots and lots of exclusive author goodies and later in this session, so stay tuned for that. And you can find out about the Pixel Project at www.thepixelproject.net. So today we have a very special guest who's doing a discussion and Q&A session by international best-selling author Marie Lu, whose books include The Legend Trilogy and The Wuggly. Marie has also generously donated some really cool stuff to the stash of author goodies we have up as the perks of donors at the Read for Pixels Indiegogo fundraising page, including a signed limited edition of Legend, which is really awesome. Woo! So please give generously. All funds go towards the Pixel Project Celebrity Male Role Model Pixel Reveal campaign to help end violence against women. And so now I'm going to turn over the video to Marie, who will do a reading from her book, Legend.
Thank you, Sasha. I am so excited to be a part of this. I just found out all of the amazing authors that are a part of this project, and it's just a huge honor to be one of these authors. So thank you very much for having me, and thank you for joining us today. I will be reading for a few minutes from Legends. This is the very first chapter of Legend, and I will actually be reading from the limited edition copy of it. This is a book that they only made 500 of these, so they're pretty rare, and it comes with some of my old artwork in there. So that's a picture of Day that I drew way back when I was trying to figure out what he looked like in my head when I first started writing the book. I have to do that. Like before I write, I have to draw my characters. Okay. Yeah, like it's become part of my writing process.
It's so cool.
Thanks. So this is part 1 of Legends, and here we go. This is from Day's point of view. My mother thinks I'm dead. Obviously, I'm not dead, but it's safer for her to think so. At least twice a month, I see my wanted poster flashed on the Jumbotron scattered throughout downtown Los Angeles. It looks out of place up there. Most of the pictures on the screens are of happy things: smiling children standing under a bright blue sky, tourists posing before the Golden Gate ruins, Republic commercials in neon colors. There's also anti-colonies propaganda. The colonies want our land, the ads declare. They want what they don't have. Don't let them conquer your homes. Support the cause. Then there's my criminal report. It lights up the Jumbotrons in all its multicolored glory. Wanted by the Republic. File number 462178, Day. Wanted for assault, arson, theft, destruction of military property, and hindering the war efforts. 200,000 Republic notes for information leading to arrest. They always have a different photo running alongside the report. One time, it was a boy with glasses and a head full of thick copper curls. Another time, it was a boy with black eyes and no hair at all. Sometimes I'm black, sometimes white, sometimes olive or brown or yellow or red or whatever else they can think of. In other words, the Republic has no idea what I look like. They don't seem to know much of anything about me, except that I'm young, and that when they run my fingerprints, they don't find a match in their databases. That's why they hate me, why I'm not the most dangerous criminal in the country, but the most wanted. I make them look bad. It's early evening, but it's already pitch black outside, and the Jumbotron's reflections are visible in the street's puddles. I sit on a crumbling window ledge 3 stories up, hidden from view behind rusted steel beams. This used to be an apartment complex, but it's fallen into disrepair. Broken lanterns and glass shards litter the floor of this room, and paint is peeling from every wall. In one corner, an old portrait of the Elector Primo lies face up on the ground. I wonder who used to live here. No one's cracked enough to let their portrait of the Elector sit discarded on the floor like that. My hair, as usual, is tucked inside an old newsboy cap. My eyes are fixed on the small, one-story house across the road. My hands fiddle with a pendant tied around my neck. Tess leans against the room's other window, watching me closely. I'm restless tonight, and, as always, she can sense it. The plague has hit the lake sector hard. In the glow of the jumbotrons, Tess and I can see the soldiers at the end of the street as they inspect each home, their black capes shiny and worn loose in the heat. Each of them wears a gas mask. Sometimes when they emerge, they mark a house by painting a big red X on the front door. No one enters or leaves the home after that, at least not when anyone's looking. Still don't see them? Tess whispers. Shadows conceal her expression. In an attempt to distract myself, I'm piecing together a makeshift slingshot out of old PVC pipes. They haven't eaten dinner. They haven't sat down by the table in hours. I shift and stretch out my bad knee. Maybe they're not home? I shoot Tess an irritated glance. She's trying to console me, but I'm not in the mood. A lamp's lit. Look at those candles. Mom would never waste candles if no one was home. Tess moves closer. We should leave the city for a couple weeks, yeah? She tries to keep her voice calm, but the fear is there. Soon the plague will have blown through, and you can come back to visit. We have more than enough money for 2 train tickets. I shake my head. 1 night a week, remember? Just let me check up on them 1 night a week. Yeah, you've been coming here every night this week. I just want to make sure they're okay. What if you get sick? I'll take my chances. And you didn't have to come with me. You could have waited for me back in Ulta. Tess shrugs. Somebody has to keep an eye on you. 2 years younger than me, although sometimes she sounds old enough to be my caretaker. We look on in silence as the soldiers draw closer to my family's house. Every time they stop at a home, one soldier pounds on the door while a second stands next to him with his gun drawn. If no one opens the door within 10 seconds, the first soldier kicks it in. I can't see them once they rush inside, but I know the drill. A soldier will draw a blood sample from each family member, then plug it into a handheld reader and check for the plague. The whole process takes 10 minutes. I count the houses between where the soldiers are now and where my family lives. I'll have to wait another hour before I know their fate. A shriek echoes from the other end of the street. My eyes dart toward the sound and my hand whips to the knife sheathed at my belt. Tess sucks in her breath. It's a plague victim. She must have been deteriorating for months because her skin is cracked and bleeding everywhere. And I find myself wondering how the soldiers could have missed this one during previous inspections. She stumbles around for a while, disoriented, and then charges forward, only to trip and fall to her knees. I glance back toward the soldiers. They see her now. The soldier with the drawn weapon approaches, while the 11 others stay where they are and look on. One plague victim isn't much of a threat. The soldier lifts his gun and aims. A volley of sparks engulfs the infected woman. She collapses, then goes still. The soldier rejoins his comrades. I wish we could get our hands on one of the soldiers' guns. A pretty weapon like that doesn't cost much on the market. 480 notes, less than a stove. Like all guns, it has precision, guided by magnets and electric currents, and can accurately shoot a target 3 blocks away. It's tech stolen from the colonies, Dad once said, although of course the Republic would never tell you that. Tess and I could buy 5 of them if we wanted. Over the years, we've learned to stockpile the extra money we steal and stash it away for emergencies. But the real problem with having a gun isn't the expense. It's that it's so easy to trace back to you. Each gun has a sensor on it that reports its user's hand-shaped thumbprints and location. If that didn't give me away, nothing would. So I'm left with my homemade weapons, PVC pipe slingshots, and other trinkets. They found another one, Tess says. She squints to get a better look. I look down and see the soldiers spill from another house. One of them shakes a can of spray paint and draws a giant red X on the door. I know that house. The family that lives there once had a little girl my age. My brothers and I played with her when we were younger. Freeze tag and street hockey with iron pokers and crumpled paper. Tess tries to distract me by nodding at the cloth bundle near my feet. What'd you bring him? I smile, then reach down to untie the cloth. Some of the stuff we saved up this week. It'll make for a nice celebration once they pass the inspection. I dig through the little pile of goodies inside the bundle, then hold up a used pair of goggles. I check them again to make sure there are no cracks in the glass. For John, an early birthday gift. My older brother turns 19 later this week. He works 14-hour shifts in the neighborhood plant's friction stoves and always comes home rubbing his eyes from the smoke. These goggles were a lucky steal from a military supply shipment. I put them down and shuffle through the rest of the stuff. It's mostly tins of meat and potato hash I stole from an airship's cafeteria, and an old pair of shoes with intact soles. I wish I could be in the room with all of them when I deliver this stuff. But John's the only one who knows I'm alive, and he's promised not to tell Mom or Eden. Eden turns 10 in 2 months, which means that in 2 months he'll have to take the trial. I failed my own trial when I was 10. That's why I worry about Eden. Because even though he's easily the smartest of us 3 boys, he thinks a lot like I do. When I finished my trial, I felt so sure of my answers that I didn't even bother to watch them grade it. But then the admins ushered me into a corner of the trial stadium with a bunch of other kids. They stamped something on my test and stuffed me onto a train heading downtown. I didn't get to take anything except the pendant I wore around my neck. I didn't even get to say goodbye. And we'll stop there.
Wow.
So that is from the first chapter of Legend. Yeah.
Awesome. So we have actually some exciting news. So shout out to Kathy S. from Cincinnati, Ohio, because she actually purchased the book. So we already got
God. That is awesome. Yay. Thank you.
Guys, please keep on donating because there are awesome other goodies that are still available from authors like Cami Garcia and Lauren Bukes. So go and check that out. Yay! Okay, so now we're going to ask her some questions, and I have some questions right here for her, and then we're going to go on to the questions that you guys asked her via Twitter and the Q&A app on the live show. So the first question that I have for you is, June is a resilient and strong character. How can girls in this day and age incorporate some of June's characteristics in their everyday life?
Well, one of the, I'm really glad that you brought up June. She's very, very close to my heart. One of the things that June has an advantage of living in the world of Legend is that even though the Republic is a dystopia, in some ways it is actually better than our real world. Legend has a lot of issues, like the Republic has a lot of problems, but one problem they don't have is gender discrimination. You know, June never faces trouble throughout her life to be a military commander just like a man could. Like, there is no discrimination in her world against that. Her world is all about class discrimination. And I wrote that specifically because it was supposed to be a little bit of a farce of the United States, of our actual world where, you know, we live in a dystopia of our own. You know, obviously women don't have, you know, there are a lot of barriers that women still face in today's age that, you know, has been getting better over time, but it's still not the same. And it can be hard for girls today to find out who they really are, I guess, to let themselves speak out and achieve everything that they actually want to achieve, because we're kind of taught from an early age all these subliminal messages about what we can and can't do. You know, we still get paid like 77 cents to every dollar that a man makes. So I actually think a really great message is from Sheryl Sandberg's Lean In. I thought that was a really, really great read, and I thought that she made a really good point about how because of the way things are, because of the fact that there's not a lot of women in you know, high corporate standings, that you have to lean in. Like, you have to kind of put in that extra effort to speak up. And even though it makes it, you know, there's more hardships that you have to face as opposed to if you are a man usually. It's something that has to be done, and it's something that a lot of men should listen to as well. You know, this is something that cannot be achieved just by women alone. So I think for parents out there, if you have sons, it's something that you should teach your sons as well. And girls are taught to be empowered, but we can't do it alone. We need the cooperation of everyone. So yeah, I hope that we'll reach a day where girls can go out and achieve everything just like June does in Legend, even though the Republic has its own issues.
Oh, that's wonderful. Oh my gosh, I love that answer. That was perfect. Okay, so now the second question is, out of all your female characters you've created, who do you relate to most and why?
Out of all my characters,
female characters. Yes.
Female characters, right? It's funny. June and I started off kind of on the wrong foot because June and I have absolutely nothing in common. She's like a genius, and I am so not a genius. So it's kind of hard writing about her sometimes because she and I are very, very different people. I actually related the most to Tess, who is Day's best friend on the streets. She is pretty much modeled off of who I was in high school. I was kind of very shy and insecure, and that's pretty much Tess, especially in the beginning of the series. So I really identify with Tess, and I sympathize with her quite a bit, even though she goes through some growing pains as the series goes on. My wish fulfillment female character is actually Kaede, who first appears in Legend, and then plays a bigger role in like books 2 and 3. Yeah, and she is a fighter pilot, and when I was a kid, I wanted to be a fighter pilot. But I have really bad eyesight. Like, you can't see it right now, but I'm wearing contacts. And I'm like legally blind without them. So it's probably for the best that I'm not flying airplanes. But yeah, so I kind of get my wish fulfillment through Kaede, and I figured the next best thing is to write about fighter jets if I can't actually be in them.
Oh my gosh, that's so awesome. Tess is an awesome character, though, and it's really interesting how you kind of based it off of your adolescent self, and I really like that. I love Tess's character. She's so neat. Okay, the third question is, women around the world are subjected to abuse. What would June and Day do to prevent these heinous acts from happening?
Oh, wow. These are intense questions.
I know.
It's Day and June are so young. The thing is, even though they live in a really dark world, they have a motto, which is to walk in the light. Like, that is Day's slogan that he lives by. That's like his mantra of life, to walk in the light. So he very much believes in doing the right thing, even though he's surrounded by darkness. He believes in being the silver lining in his world, and June takes on that mantra as well. And I think, there's a ton of abuse and violence against women in the world. I think for June and Day, they don't face quite the same battle, but they have their own battles to choose. And I feel like the way that you fight that is not with hatred. There is a very understandable tendency to lash back at violence. You fight violence with violence. It's the revenge, the vendetta that comes out, and that just divides people. I have seen campaigns online where people tear each other down at the slightest thing, and it's not productive. I feel like you can't battle that way. You have to reach out in a way that is critical, but and that raises awareness, but that is still something that is the more mature response, the peaceful response, and something that is inclusive. Yeah. So I think Day and June would probably approach it that way. They would not resort to revenge and violence and hatred and bitterness, which is kind of what people want. They want to tear you down. And June kind of learns that the hard way in the very beginning, because she is so driven by her pain of losing her brother that she almost falls to becoming a victim of revenge. But you have to walk in the light. You have to rise above that. And I think that's how June and Day would view it. Yeah.
Definitely. I love that motto, like the light and everything. It's so awesome. Okay, so the fourth question is, in your opinion, how can authors like yourself best support efforts to kick off social change to end violence against women?
Well, to start, I think it's a great thing that the Pixel Project exists, that we are able to come on here and talk to people and raise and do what we can to raise awareness for the battle against, violence against women. I think this kind of organization, combined with other efforts around the world, is absolutely something that we should all do whenever we can. It's these little things that all add up to something greater. You never know who you reach out to. I have fellow authors who are absolutely amazing at using their platform and their star status to discuss these issues online. They pick out things, they criticize things, they're very good at blogging about it and raising awareness. Reaching out to the fans that way is really, really great. And and we try to, and I think I try very hard in my stories to depict scenarios and people that I think should be represented, and stories that I hope will empower both young women and men to see their world in a different way and to seek the truth and to find, to accept others. And I hope that it's something that we all try to do with our story, because that's really the moment when I get to talk to people in the most direct way, through my stories, and it weighs very heavily on me, whatever I put into my stories. So I think that's probably the biggest way that we can reach out to people, is to depict the world in our books in the way that we want our readers to respond.
Yeah. Definitely, definitely. And just squeezing this question in there, since we're talking about it before in the pre-show, what do you think about Gamergate? And can you explain it to the audience and kind of teach them what it is and what's going on with that? Because you're very into the gaming world, and I feel like you have some really good ideas of what's going on and how to get prevented and everything. So can you elaborate on Gamergate?
Yeah, sure. I mean, gosh, I don't even know where to start with Gamergate. So Gamergate started, I think, about a year or two ago. It started off as this guise of freedom of journalism, accountability of journalism, because a lot of gamers were attacking this female journalist, game journalist, and it quickly just evolved into this just awful, very backward, lashing out against women in games who dare to criticize the establishment. It's no secret that video games have traditionally been a male-dominated realm. I used to work in games, and I never encountered people who were terrible to me, but it was very obvious that there were very few women in the office. This is not a world where women dominate, and there are endless cases every year of harassment of women at game conventions. There is a prominent YouTube critic called Anita Sarkeesian, who is amazing. She makes these beautiful breakdowns of video games and points out their flaws and how they depict their women characters, and how stereotypical a lot of the depictions are. But because she does that, this hopefully small but very loud contingent of gamers threaten her online and harass her and threaten to hurt her or rape her or kill her and her loved ones, and this is something that she's had to deal with for a long time. So that's part of what Gamergate has become, and the term Gamergate has come to mean people who are in the games industry who are essentially against the idea of women being in games in any way, and that and they kind of relish in tearing you down. It's a very, very disappointing movement to see. Hopefully it's something that, because it got a lot of attention and awareness in the last year or two, is on the downswing. And the good thing is a lot of very prominent game developers and prominent voices, everyone from Joss Whedon to they've all come out and spoken out against this. So it's nice to see that kind of attention on it, and it's nice that a light has been shed on this issue in the games industry, this sort of patriarchal system. But there's a long way to go still, and hopefully it's because there was a lot of noise raised about it. Hopefully it's something that spurs the game industry to change and to kind of crack down on that kind of behavior inside the studios and also at game conventions and other spaces so that women can feel more welcome.
Definitely.
Yeah. I like to game.
Yeah. That's really interesting. Like, because I know me being in the book world and not necessarily in the gaming world, I did not know about this. And thank you for shedding light on that for people who are like me and have never heard of this, because now we know about it and now we can raise awareness towards that as well. So thank you for talking about that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So question number 5 is, as a storyteller, what is your definition of a strong female character?
A strong female character. All right. It's so funny that you bring that up. Like, I'm glad that you mentioned that term, because it's kind of a loaded term.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because like no one ever says strong male character. There's no reason to say that. You say, a well-developed male character, or just a good character. I think it all started with good intentions. You have like Xena the warrior princess and like the kick-ass girl, and that's kind of seen as the physically strong female character. But I think the more important thing that I try, and I think a lot of my fellow authors try to do, is to create female characters who are just well-rounded characters. People who are seen as women who are seen as people. Not so much strong female characters. So I go about developing them the same way I do any character. You think about what are their weaknesses, what are they afraid of, what makes them human, and yeah, like it's. I don't approach it any differently than I do creating a male character. Yeah, I think George R. R. Martin had a really great quote about it, where someone asked him, like, how do you create such strong women in your stories? And he was just like, well, I just think of them as people. And that's how I do it. So, yeah, I mean, it's hard because obviously we don't write in a vacuum. We're all kind of influenced by the society that we live in. So we all kind of have these stereotypes that have been forced on us for a long, long time since we're kids. But as I write, I try very hard to not think about those things and to just write them as people. Yeah.
Oh, wow, that was actually very well said, because I never really thought of it that way. Like, yes, we as like females, we can be characters just as the guy characters are, but I love the way that you said that, how female characters, they're just like people, and you create them just like they are people, and they can be strong, and the guys can be strong, there be strong male characters and strong female, and I really just love that. And George R. R. Martin, he has the best quotes towards this stuff.
Oh my god, he does. Yeah, and like what makes his book so great is that like it's not just like he has strong female characters, he has like a lot of them, and they're all very different, Oh, yeah. So it's like we as women come in all kinds of personalities and shapes and sizes. You can't cover it in like the one female character, So
yeah. That's so true. Like multiple female characters equals even more badass, just as like any other character, and I just love that. So the 6th question is, we're seeing the heroine effect now in pop culture with lots of capable and complex female protagonists. Has the trend influenced your creative decisions with creating female characters for your books?
If it has, I didn't do it consciously.
Yeah.
I didn't really think too much about it, although it's been very, very nice to see some of the shifts that have happened in the last year or two.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what movies you have in mind, but I'm thinking of like Frozen and
yes, Frozen.
Frozen and like the Heat. But just all these like really great films with more than one female character who, and they can contrast it with each other. And there was a great character in How to Train Your Dragon. Just like these really, really wonderful, well-rounded characters that have been popping up, and that's been really nice. Like Divergent, seeing these franchises, with the Hunger Games, with these very, very complex young females leading them, and they've become like huge franchises, which is really awesome to see, I mean, I don't know if it's affected me personally in terms of how I create my characters. I'm sure it does on some subconscious level that I maybe don't know about, but I just try in all my stories to have like a wide enough cast of female characters and male characters and everyone in between who are all represented in their own way.
Yeah. That is so good. Yeah, and like I like how you brought up like Frozen, because Disney, like 10, 20 years ago, you would see the damsel in distress, the girl that needed the prince to be saved. And now with Frozen and with Brave doesn't even have a prince in the story or like a really prominent male character, and they're just strong female characters, especially Frozen. Frozen just really shows that in a great way that you can have your sister save you. You don't need the prince. And I think that Disney's a great example now, especially because how much they've changed since very many years ago and until now. So it's very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so number 7 is, do you think it's important for influential authors such as yourself, who are read all over the world, make a conscious effort to include characters, both male and female, in your stories that show readers the importance of respect women as equals and as human beings?
Absolutely. And I temper that by saying, I don't want to say that authors need to go into their stories overwhelmed with the idea of creating a message. That's not the goal of what we write. Like, you create your characters based on what you need for the story. Mm-hmm. I think what I do think authors should do is you create the characters you need for your story without making your character decisions based on the fact that, I think this stereotype should go in, or that stereotype, or being careless about what stereotypes you put into your stories. I think that is what we try to avoid. Yeah. But I definitely think that we should be trying to, within the constraints of whatever story we're writing, to create an environment where women are obviously seen as humans, as people, as complicated people, as much as their male counterparts. There should be an effort made there, absolutely. And I think the more that people read, the more that we write, the more that we're open to this kind of criticism of our work, the better we can make character decisions as we progress. All stories are different. There might be a story about a guy who's stuck on an island and he's like the only character. So you're not going to put in characters just for the sake of having them in stories where they don't belong. But if you do, then you should run through these things in your head to make sure that you're making characters that are worthy of being on the page. So yeah.
That's really good. That's really good. Okay, so question number 8 is, stopping violence against women seems to be something very close to your heart, since you are very kindly supporting the Pixel Project and our We for Pixels campaign. Why do you support this cause?
I think it's a hard cause not to support. What I love about the Pixel Project is how easy it is to get the brand. This is a message that resonates for pretty much everyone, because we all are either women, or we have mothers and daughters and sisters. We all know, like we were talking about this before the show started, we all know someone who has been affected by violence against women. So it's a very personal issue, and I can't imagine not being affected by that kind of message and wanting to be a part of that. So it wasn't even a question for me when the request came in. I just knew you have to be a part of this. It's a really important campaign.
Definitely, definitely. Yeah, like just this campaign, it really is just, it definitely resonates throughout your audience and readers, and it really is just such an amazing thing to be a part of, just to raise awareness for such a great cause to prevent violence against women, because it's definitely very occurrent in this day and age and needs to be prevented because it is not right, it is so heinous, and it's just something that should be prevented. So thank
Yeah.
you so much for like doing this. Okay, so okay, I almost forgot which question we're on. Okay, so number 9 is the final question that I have for you. Then we're going to turn it over to the audience's questions. And so number 9 is, in your opinion, how can authors like yourself best support efforts to end violence against women?
Best support violence against women. But I mean, going back to what we were talking about earlier, you know, as authors, we are lucky enough to have a bit of a platform. You know, some of us have bigger platforms than others, but having a platform means that we have kind of a responsibility to reach out to people about issues, especially women's issues, especially social issues. And this is something that goes beyond even the fight for women's rights. You know, this is for all kinds of social issues. The fact that we have a platform to talk to people about it means that we should use it for good. I mean, being silent is kind of the worst thing. You know, it's pretty much just as bad as being against a campaign. So I think as authors, we use our platforms. We use our platforms as much as we can to bring about change that's better for the world. So so I guess that would be the best way we could do it. That and through our writing itself. Because, you know, we, especially myself, you know, and my other young adult authors, we write for young people. We write for the next generation. And I mean, like, the books that I read as a child were very influential on who I became as an adult. So there is a great responsibility what we write for the next generation. And, you know, that's something that young adult authors in particular and children's authors have to take on. Yeah.
Oh yeah, so true, so true. And it's amazing how much just like writing a book can change and influence somebody's life. And it's just such a beautiful thing, even because a child, they're growing up and they're experiencing stuff in their life, and once they read a book, they can get a totally different mindset than what they thought was like true or something. So it's just amazing how that happens. So we're gonna go, So we're going to go over and do some questions from the audience, and we're going to be taking these questions from the Q&A app that's on the live Hangout, and then we're also going to be taking it off of the Twitter, and that Twitter hashtag is MarieLouPixel. So if you want to ask for some questions, go on to that, and I'll be taking some questions from there as well. So the first question that I have for you is from Susanna, and Susanna asks, is there any chance for you to write another Legend book? I just love the books. I lived through them like I was one of the characters.
Thank you. First of all, I'm so glad that you're a Legend fan. As of now, I don't have any plans to continue the Legend series. Right now, I'm sort of knee deep in finishing the Young Elite series, so that's where my attention is. But you know, never say never. There are some stories that are left untold in the Legend world, and you know, maybe someday I will revisit them again. But for now, it's just the trilogy. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, and guys, read her other series, Young Elite. It's supposed to be excellent, and the cover is beautiful. And you just released the newest cover of the second book, right, with the wolf on it. So that looks really awesome. A really pretty book cover to me is like sold, so it is beautiful. So if you guys are wanting more of Marie Lou's books, definitely go check out her other series. So the next question is from Twitter, and the handle there is Bose of Holly 13, and she asks, do you listen to music when you write? If so, what kind of music?
I do. I have to listen to music when I write. I actually cannot write in silence because it's distracting for me. Yeah. But I also can't listen to anything with lyrics in it. So when I write, I have to listen to stuff without words. Yeah. So I listen to a lot of soundtracks. For Legend, I listen to the Tron soundtrack just on like repeat.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I love that soundtrack. And a lot of stuff from Two Steps from Hell. They are a studio group that does a lot of trailer music. There's like epic sort of trailer music. And basically, if you've seen a trailer, you've heard their music. But they have really good stuff, and I kind of put that on repeat when I write.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, honestly, I totally understand the way that you cannot write with like songs and music in them because, well, not music with them, lyrics. Because I have a feeling like if I ever decided to write a book and I started listening to a song with lyrics in them, I would start writing down the lyrics instead of actual words. So that wouldn't work out for me either. Have you ever heard of the band Explosions in the Sky? Because it's really good. They have great instruments.
I haven't.
Yeah, you should.
Okay, I will look it up right afterwards.
I love it. It's great. I think that's the band name. That may be a song name, but I'm not very good with titles. But it's Explosions in the Sky. So yay. Okay. So the next question is, I'm looking through all of them. A lot of them are good. Okay. So this is from Nancy M, and she asked, Nancy N, and she asked, what is your favorite part of the Legend series?
Ooh, what is my favorite part of the Legend series? Okay, I can tell you what I had the most fun writing. It's kind of silly, but the ultimate battle scene at the end of Prodigy involved a dogfight in the skies, so between like fighter jets and stuff. So I had a lot of fun writing that. Again, going back to my fighter jet obsession when I was a kid, that was like Kaede's big moment. So she and my big moment. So I got to write this long passage about flying around and shaking off a very Top Gun, type scene. And I may have gotten a little carried away in that scene, so it kind of went on for a while. But hopefully, it wasn't like boring for anyone. I have fond memories of writing that.
Oh my gosh. So a big question that has come up a lot in both Twitter and the Q&A app is, so what is it? Okay, so this is asked from Bibliophile012, and she asks, what is the greatest piece of writing advice you have received? And also, I'm just going to attach another question that people have asking. What advice do you give to aspiring writers?
Yeah, those two are pretty much the same question, and very, very good questions. Those great questions. The biggest thing that I learned when I was starting out is that you can't be afraid to write something bad. A lot of aspiring writers, myself included, when I first started, I was so fixated on the fact that I needed to put this amazing idea in my head down on paper and it had to be perfect. So I would write like 3 chapters, and I would be like, it's not perfect. So I would go back and revise it and revise it and revise it, and I get stuck in this cycle of just never finishing it. Then I get tired of it and put it aside because I can't make it perfect, and I move on to another story. So I have like a dozen, 50-page stories that I don't finish. And when you're first starting out, it's most important to finish a story, even if it's crap, even if the words suck. So it's a hard lesson to learn because you want to make it good. But I think in the beginning it's more important to know that you can finish something as long as 80,000 words.
Oh, yeah.
And then you can go back and make it perfect. So it can be a hard lesson to learn.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's great. Are you done with the question? Is it good?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. So the next question is from Tommy Beverly on Twitter, and he asks, how can you tell if the plot is going in the right direction, and what is your favorite writing snack?
My writing snack?
Yeah.
Is that the last part of the question?
Yeah.
Okay. How do I know the plot is going in the right direction? The kind of disappointing answer is that I don't really know. I never really know until the end. I am not an outliner. I have some friends who are great outliners, and I am not one of them. I tend to just write as I go and see where it takes me. And that basically means I have incredibly messy first drafts where I will write myself into corners and then have to, get myself out of it and go in another direction. It's basically like a 9-month panic attack. That's what I call it, just like this nonstop train of trying to figure out what works and what doesn't. Yeah. So I never really know. Yeah, I mean, my goal is I know what I need to reach at the end. So I try to go back and see do all of the small scenes that happen in my book all try to lead me towards that final moment, that final scene that I need. So I guess that's kind of the rough barometer by which you can judge whether or not your plot is going in the right direction. But it's in other words, it is totally okay to be messing up in your first draft. I do it all the time. Yeah. Favorite writing snack? I have a very soft spot for Flaming Hot Cheetos.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah, I can't have them in the house. They're just like off limits. So I don't even know if that's considered like a favorite writing snack because I'm not allowed to use it. but that would be in utopian world. That's what I would be eating.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, those are the best. I love them. I actually have a question for you because I think that a lot of people would like to know this because, as you know, there's lots of fan art out there about Day in June, and I was wondering if your book, who would be your fan cast in a movie of legend for Day in June? Like, what actors would you want to portray those characters?
Fan cast, oh my gosh, this is such a hard question.
Isn't it? It's difficult. There's so many people out there.
No, it's a good question. I am really bad at picturing people for my characters just because I see them in a very specific way in my head. So it's hard for me, but if you can picture like a young Leonardo DiCaprio from his Romeo and Juliet days. Yes. Excuse me. As Day, maybe, but that's about as good as I can get. I mean, June kind of looks like Haley Steinfeld-ish, but I'm really bad at that question, though.
Yeah. No, I think that, like, with authors, they picture, like, just such a unique type of character in their head that there's no way you can actually visualize that character in real life unless you actually draw the character on the piece of paper. And authors that do have their books turned into movies and television shows, if they have a character, like if one of their characters is even remotely close to what they look like in the book, that's a success because nothing can really match what you picture in your head unless you actively try to match a character to a person that's already out there.
Yeah, it's hard. I mean, I can tell you the one character that I wrote that I actually did have an actor in mind when I was writing him, and that's Mateus, who's June's older brother. I always pictured him as Ben Barnes. So I wrote that character with Ben Barnes in my head. Yeah, he's the only one.
Oh my gosh, that's such a good note, but I could totally see how you did that because Ben Barnes, I can see that. I love that. Yeah. I love fan cast. I think it's really fun. I think it's so much fun to kind of see, ooh, who would play this character, who would play that character. I know that a lot of people out there want to know that thing about your book. So the next question is from Faith Fitzpatrick, and she asks, do you ever look over your books and find something you would change? Because this is actually an interesting question because a lot of authors I've talked to before never read their books after it's published because they're just too scared that they're going to find something that they want to change, but they cannot change it. So do you ever read over your books and find something you may want to change?
Yes. The short answer is yes. I am one of those people who will revise it until my editor pries it from my cold dead hands. I mean, she's like, we're going off to the printer now. Can you give? I'm like, no, I need to change one more word. So I mean, I could sit here and go through Legend, right? Like I was reading Legend just earlier, and I was like, I need to change that word. I need to change that sentence. So if you let me, I would edit this until the end of time if I could. So I mean, I try not to read over it too much because it'll drive me insane. But yeah, I do. I do want to change.
Definitely. Yeah. I was at a book signing the other day, and the authors, when they're asked a question, they're like, "No way, I'm not reading over this because I don't want to see these things," and just always think about them in the back of your minds. But it's really interesting how you are really practical in the way of saying you want it to be perfect.
Very OCD, yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it's the best OCD to have as an author, though, because your books are fantastic, and I think that is good that you're so OCD about that, because that's what makes your book so great. So the next question is from Becca Lowe, and she asks, were there any difficult storyline decisions about while writing the Legend series?
Difficult storyline decisions? Like I said earlier, I don't outline my stories, so I will run into problems all the time.
Hmm.
In the first book, I ended up my very first draft of Legend. The second half of the story was totally different from what it ended up being, so I had to rewrite all of that. Um, which one was the hardest? Champion's ending was originally different from what it ended up being,
Hmm.
it took me a while to get to the right ending. Yeah, so there were some difficult decisions made there,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Well, I could say from a fan's point of view who loves Champion, the ending for Champion was just perfect. It just was so content. It was actually one of my favorite book endings that I've ever read just because it was just like that good because I don't know, it was just amazing. I loved it. And I know that a lot of people did love it as well. So that's a good thing. Um, so I saw a question earlier, and I think we're going to end on this question so then we can get to all the other information about the Reaper Pixels campaign. And I think this was from Susanna, and Susanna asks, like, what is your favorite book and author?
Oh my God, what is my favorite book? Um, oh God, how do I choose this? Um, oh geez. All right, okay. If I only have to pick one out of my entire life, I will pick Brian Jakes's Madame Mayo, which is part of his Redwall series.
Mhm.
That was one of my favorite books of all time when I was a kid. It was my very first fantasy novel. So I kind of credit him with getting me into reading fantasy and science fiction, which got me into writing fantasy and science fiction.
Mhm.
So yeah, I'll go with that as my favorite. But I mean,
Yeah.
we can talk for hours about favorite books.
Oh my
So
gosh, I know, right? There's just so many out there, and they're so good.
yeah, there's too many. Too many.
So I know that I said that was the last question, but we have one more that kind of relates to the Reaper Pixels campaign. So this is from Kathleen Kim, and she asks, as a young woman, did you ever receive any discrimination based on your gender?
As a young woman, there are hundreds of subconscious things that happen all the time. You know,
Mhm.
I I'm sure a lot of us have experienced those things before. Those moments all exist. Like being told that you are like I one of my hobbies is photography. I was told
I love
once
it too.
that you're like, oh, do you like that too?
Oh my gosh, yeah, I have my like, camera right next to me.
Nice, that's awesome. Yeah, mine is right here.
Where's mine? Yeah,
Yeah,
mine are here.
nice,
Love it.
awesome. All
Yeah.
right, back to the fans.
Oh my gosh, love it.
Yeah. Yeah, when I was young, I once got a comment from someone who was like, "Oh, well, isn't that kind of like a men's hobby?" And I was kind of like, "What do you mean a men's hobby? I never even thought about that. You know, it doesn't. Those things don't cross my mind until someone mentions it." So, like those little things pop up all the time. Like people say them without even realizing what they're saying. You know, it's just
Yeah.
become. It's like a stereotype. You know, people assume that men take photos of women. Women are the subjects of photos. And I was just kind of taken aback by that. I was like, what do you
Yeah.
mean? That doesn't make any sense to me. So that's one example. When I first started in the writing world, I mean, I definitely felt it because there's not, especially in adult fantasy and science fiction, at the time there were not nearly as many women as there were men.
Yeah.
So I remember the first writers conference I ever went to. I was in college. I was 18 or 19. I went to one, and I was literally the only female sitting in attendance in this panel about fantasy world building.
Yeah.
And I just felt kind of like, wow, this is really kind of unsettling. I never even, like, things that we don't think about until you see it, and then you're like, that's weird. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I have experienced those things, but,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, it doesn't stop us from doing what we love. Like, we are both taking photos.
Yeah, exactly. Wait, one question. Are you a Nikon or Canon user?
I am a Nikon.
Ah, dang it, I'm Canon.
Oh, you're
Canon has my
they're
heart.
they're both amazing. They're both
They're both
amazing.
amazing. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
true. That's true.
yeah.
They're so similar. I don't.
Exciting.
It's such like the debate. So actually, we have time for like two more questions. I just noticed. So this is a question that has been coming up a lot in the Q&A section of the live show, and that is from Jamari. And Jamari asks, "What process is the Legend movie currently under?" If you could say anything about it, if you know anything.
Writers are we're sort of like the last to know about anything in terms of Hollywood stuff. But as far as I know, Legend is sitting in a place where the screenplay is done, and we are looking for a director. So that's the last that I've heard. And if I hear anything else, you know, you guys will probably hear it before I do. You'll probably tweet it at me, and I'll be like, "Oh, that's great! We have a director now." But yeah, that's where it's sitting right now. So fingers crossed that something else happens. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Like, if you see, if you guys follow, like, Cassandra Clare, for example, if you guys know that there's a Mortal Instruments TV show in the works, and she absolutely has no idea what's going on. You can see that through her tweets, that she is getting informed as the TV show progresses. And there's two different ways that an author really gets informed, and there's two different types of authors that are really in the business of their movie, and that is, like, for example, Cassandra Clare, who has no idea, and then John Green, who's literally at set every day. So it's like, that's totally, like, understandable when authors just have no idea what's going on, because you are right. Sometimes they are the last people to know. Let me check out the next question. Okay, so this is from Susanna again. She has really good questions. Is Commander Jameson based off of somebody you are enemies with, or do you just want to make her evil by choice? Okay.
Thankfully, she is not based on anyone I know.
Yeah.
I feel like she's a pretty awful person to know. She's like a total psychopath. No, yeah, she's not based on anyone I know. But I have a lot of fun creating her. You know, I like female villains. I think it's cool when they're just well, not cool. Cool's not the right word. I think it's interesting when they are, you know, allowed to be bad. So.
Oh yeah, like they're made to be bad. Love it. Okay, so this is an actually interesting question, and that is from Fandom Hunter 1, and she asks, what is the worst part about writing a book?
The worst part about writing a book, for me, is absolutely writing the first draft. I hate writing the first draft so much, because that is when it is at its ugliest. You know, it's so messy. Nothing makes sense because I don't have an outline, so it's just going all over the place. Usually, I'm just like, by the end of my first draft, I just look at it. I'm like, this is the worst thing I've ever written in my life. I'm gonna go live under a bridge now. Like, that's kind of my reaction to them. Yeah. So, yeah, not a fan of first draft, but I do like revisions, because I feel like that's when they start changing. The story starts changing to what I need it to be. Yeah.
Well, kind of like reversing this question, because that was kind of like the downer side of writing a book. What is the best part about writing a book?
Best part. There's a lot of best parts. It's an awesome job. I really, really love that before I start writing the first draft, that very early stage of coming up with the story idea and doing research on that idea. Like, before I even start writing the story, and I'm drawing my characters, and at that moment, the story is it's perfect in my mind. You know, it's like this beautiful little utopia. Like, it's gonna be great. It's gonna be the best story ever, until I start writing the first draft. But I really love that moment of the writing process. And then, other than that, I really love being able to talk to readers and fans. Yeah. It's really nice, you know, when I go out to events, to be able to talk to the readers about the books and to connect with the readers. So that's really, really fun for me too.
Yeah. And just as a last question, because I bet a lot of people want to meet you, so do you have any events coming up for the readers to meet you at, or do you have any travel plans coming up currently?
Yeah, actually, there is something happening on April 10th through the 12th called YALL West, and this is the West Coast, the West Coast version of YALL Fest. It is going to be huge and really fun, and I will be there along with many, many other authors to sign, talk, and it'll be great. There's so many good authors coming out for that, and it's in Santa Monica, California, which means the weather is great. So if you are tired of the snow, I recommend heading out this way for it. It'll be really fun. To follow the Tumblr on it, you just go to yallwest.tumblr.com. It's YALLWEST. And I think there's still some tickets left to go. Yeah, that's where I will be.
I'm so jealous that everybody in the West Coast gets to go to that because I went to YALL Fest a few years ago, 2 years ago, and I thought it was great. But too bad I'm not on the West Coast. That would be fun. But I hope you guys have a great time there. So we're just going to be wrapping up this. So I'm just going to speak a little bit about what the Reaper Pixels is and how you could donate. And then, yeah, so as mentioned earlier, Marie has generously donated one signed limited edition hardcover of Legend for one lucky donor to claim, and it actually has already been claimed, but do not worry, there's still some awesome goodies still that you could purchase from other awesome authors. So go check out that. And now I'm going to be doing a screen share because it will show you where you could donate, and where does that go? Okay, so start screen share. Okay, so everyone. Okay, so you could donate to get the goodies on Indiegogo, and you can see the donation link right above. And then you can also donate, if you have a PayPal and no credit card, you can donate at Razul, and you can get a set of exclusive Read for Pixels wallpapers for your laptop, tablet, and smartphone. If you want to learn more about Read for Pixels, go to the website that is is.gd/readforpixels. And to find out more about violence against women and what you could do to prevent it, visit the Pixel Project website at www.thepixelproject.net. And once again, to find out more about the Celebrity Male Role Model Pixel Reveal campaign, please visit the reveal.thepixelproject.net to learn more about it. And please do donate generously to help us reveal pixels and raise the $1 million for the cause. And so, let me just stop this. So thank you so much, Marie, for being here and supporting this cause. It was amazing talking to you, and thank you for answering all our questions. And I hope you had a great time as much as we did.
I did, yeah. Thank you so much. This was really great, and you were an awesome moderator. I had a really great time talking to you.
Thank you. And everybody remember to go purchase Marie's books, which is the Legend Trilogy and the Young Elites. So thank you guys for being here, and remember to donate because this is an amazing cause that you really should support because it's just an amazing universal thing. So thank you all for being here, and we'll see you in the next live show. So bye!
Bye, thank you.